This next part of 52 Weeks looks at just all these projects, and there's about 15 of them that I look at just to keep in mind, to try to see the relationship. It's very difficult to kind of keep all these things in juggling them without really some sort of structure or mechanism to allow them to work together. This is where a planning commission, a paid planning commission, is helpful to oversee this. That's their job, to oversee and kind of run this and manage it. We don't have that in Harrisburg because we have a volunteer planning commission. It's more of a reactionary. So when we run through these projects, these are seen as, I see these as master planning. These are small projects that need to be knitted together. Again, 15 of these things are impacting each other. So we look at the first one is the State Street bike lanes. That's looking at what happens when we take out 2 lanes on this road. This comes from the Vision Zero process and understanding the deaths that have happened on State Street because of speeding through this residential neighborhood. And this is in number 4 and 5 that you can look at. But this is the now bike lanes that they're proposing for protected lanes to kind of slow and traffic calm. Next one is in housing study. This is looking at number 2, the idea that a housing study came out. This is a kind of another previous study that's been done that covers previous information. So there's overlap. Same with 3rd Street. Number 3 is looking at the long-term understanding of 3rd Street. I remember when I first moved in the area, they were talking about the Elm Street grant and trying to work on an art street from Forester up to Riley and beyond. That's been talked about for years. A lot of data says the same thing. So it's not like anything has changed. Number 4 is Vision Zero. Again, this is talking about State Street and other, understanding around our area, other places that are highly, where there's a lot of speeding traffic or high traffic volumes and pedestrian crossings. How do we do better with that? These are related because if we look at Front Street and our bike lanes, and how do we access our river? These are all issues within citizens of how do we get access to the places, why we chose to live here or why we continue to live here and like this place. How do we strengthen it to be better? Another thing that's related, again, to transit is 6th and 7th Street corridor. This is back in the 2018. And we're understanding how these 2 corridors were connected, from down at Forster the whole way up, or actually Hearst Street, and down the Capitol building the whole way up to Division and Division Street Bridge. So that's important to think about. Another one is the 2nd Street conversion. That's relatively recent this year. Again, looking at a lot of the finding came out this year, but it goes back to November of 2017 as well. So these have been on the books for a while, talking about how this connects. All right, going back a little further, 2016, in April, when we're talking about the State Archives building, this is up on the 6th Street, right near the federal courthouse. So this is important because this plan came out in 2016. I remember going to the meeting, and then nothing happened, and then we had another plan in August of 2018. So everything kind of goes silent for a while. No updates, no process to connect these. So we can then go to number 8 is the Paxton Creek Waterway. It goes back to 2015 and understanding how this Paxton Creek connects along Cameron. How do we make it better, actually ecologically functional, and becomes a resource that's in our, actually does separate the 2 areas of Harrisburg. When you look at the flat area, and then we've got Paxton and the rail yard, and then the upper hill area, everything on the bluff. That's something to be considered, is how does this get knitted together? Number 9, understanding the Front Street. I threw this in here because this is the LEDs. They were doing a test of LED lighting back in 2015, and how that affects the roads. This is something that we could take this data and start to implement and plan out through a city to actually strengthen our other main roads around the city and make them much more visible for pedestrians and those who enjoy the park. So we look at the Front Street bike lane that connects to the LEDs as well. This is number 10, but running from Division all the way down to Market Street, and what happens when we reduce traffic. All right. So again, these are all controversial things, and when you look at Penn Live or read reviews, but we need to be pulling together a single thread here. As you look at Vision Zero, we look at walkability, bike transit, how do we move around our city? These are important. These are the framework of how we operate. The 2011 we're looking at the Northern Gateway. This is happening at where the Maclay Street Bridge is, and Maclay Street hits 7th Street, that area. That's another thing that connects to the 7th and 6th Street corridors, as well as anything that's planning in the comprehensive plan in that zone. Number 12, we're looking at the I-83 Beltway. This has been around for a while. In the early 2000s, these plans are out there. I know when I came into Harrisburg and working on the Harrisburg Southern Gateway, this was out there. We knew about it. So it's not like these things creep up. We just don't have any method to talk about them or keep them in the public's mindset. It's kind of like, hey, look over here, look over here, look over here. We're just all over the place. So this is where we do need a combined effort to track this stuff. From a public point of view, and I would even argue a grassroots point of view. It takes us citizens, because no one from politics or no one from the media are going to be following this and keeping an eye on it. It always becomes a, hey, look at this exciting thing, look at this exciting thing over here, and no one's looking at it a holistic way. So number 13 leads right into the Harrisburg Southern Gateway. As I said, I came from Philly to work on the Harrisburg Southern Gateway in 2005, understanding how 83 comes into 2nd Street and affects 3rd Street, Paxton Street, all that area. Again, another long project from that many years ago, and how that evolved over the years. Number 14, we're looking at, again, since the 2000s. I had mentioned the federal courthouse above with the state archives. Federal courthouse, again, was something that was on the books even back in the mid-2000s, or I think it's even earlier as people were talking about it. And where has that gone? We know they've already broken ground, but where's the connection in there? And one would argue, how does this connect back into the community, looking at community planning money and funds to really knit this in a way that that may impact the residential neighbors down 6th Street and below. And lastly, I throw this in here as number 15, looking at regional rail. Someone had posted recently from the 1969 article about a monorail that connected both shores together. It's pretty interesting to I have that in the links. You can check that out. Again, I put that in there because it's long-term thinking. We need to be putting these visions out there, no matter how broad they are. It's at least getting us to think about it. We need to transition our thinking. This is why the 3 horizon mindset's important, is that we're working in the present, understanding all our past baggage and things that are good in the past that we need to take with us, and then applying it to the future. We need to be planning out in the future. We just don't jump around and we shouldn't be in a mindset where it's any of these developers. We just let these things happen, and that's good for our city. That's been our MO for the past couple decades. So I hope this helps in understanding all the projects that are out there that I keep in my mind. There's probably some other small ones that are there that I didn't mention. Please talk in the comments. If you find some, try to pull these together. But this is really just an overview of what's happening around our city in Harrisburg and how do we pull it together. That's the question for 2019. How do we get this together so that it's not we're not running around frantic with all these projects? All right. Some entity should be looking at this and getting this in a framework. This is what the comprehensive plan is for. There are parts of this in there and how it's integrated together. But we need to go further and to see how these projects begin to affect the small area plans. These are the small neighborhood plans that are very important to be seen, because it's going to be affecting us as residents and not only just visitors that come in and enjoy our place. We want to have this as a long-term place that everybody can enjoy in the future. So just like the City Beautiful had a planning mechanism way back in the early 1900s, we should be thinking about that as well. It's like, what do we want to see Harrisburg to be looking at in 2030, 2040? I hope that it's vastly different, and understanding that we can do this as a town of 50,000. It's a relatively small city, and we can put our minds to it and do some great things for the students and citizens of the future.